guys? Welcome back to another episode of More Than My Size. I am your host, AP, and the lovely.
As I am Nimade Vewu, or that African butterfly. We're so excited to join you for another night.
Absolutely. I don't even think we should say what episode number this is in case, I don't know, post this out of order. Y'all don't need to know our business. But at any rate, today we are talking about something I think that is.
Wait, before we talk about something serious, I have to talk about something.
Oh, here we go. Hold on. Let me
It's
get.
the bob for me. Do you see me out here bobbing freely? Stiff
Square. This way.
square. Oh, sorry,
Let's
I
give,
rarely wear my
let's give
heels
homage. Oh,
off.
while we're here, I'm not trying to put my titties in the camera, but Thunder Thigh, please support Lita F. Styles out of Philly. She has a whole collection called Thunder Thighs, purse, dresses. She has a thicker than your average sweatshirt, thicker
I
than
want
your
that one.
average
I love
t-shirt.
that one.
So yeah, like support women in business and
Yes.
support Black business. And before y'all go on her page and ask if she's Black, yes, she is. All right, now with that out the way, back
Yes.
to the subject at
Back
hand.
to the subject at hand.
We are going to talk about something I think that women specifically really need. Not saying this doesn't apply to men, but women specifically need to get comfortable doing, especially in this digital content creator age, which is asking to be paid. It might sound like a no-brainer, but coming into this space of blogger, influencer, digital creator, whatever, it gets real sticky with the collaborations. And one thing you'll learn really quickly is like brands like to finesse you into like free product and exposure. And if you don't know better, you will find yourself in that cycle for a really long time. And we're going to talk about how we're just putting our feet down in 2021, and it's a pay me all 2021 type of thing. Like it's not a
Absolutely.
loss. It's not a
And not
loss.
even just for the blogging world, because a lot of times we don't get paid what we deserve in the corporate world. Like I'm still in corporate America, transitioning to full-time doing other stuff, but a lot of times people have a problem asking for a raise or asking to be paid what they're worth. And I think that's actually part of, we take that mentality with us into when we're content creating and trying to collab with brands or do things with other people. We're still so used to growing up like, don't talk about money, don't like put these things out there. And I think people just grow up being real hesitant. At least I know I was real hesitant about being like, hey, pay me what I'm worth, or even just asking people, like, because you don't know either, like, what are you getting paid, what are you getting paid? And one of my favorite people that I follow, Lovey, she says like her and her group of girlfriends, they all are very open, like what do they charge for speaking engagements, 5 figures, by the way. Like they all know like about what they all charge and what they all bring, and they're open about that. And I think that we need to, on all levels and all pay scales, need to get more comfortable about that.
I agree. It's interesting though. I probably had an easier time in corporate America learning how to ask for money than I had initially in the content creator world. And I think it was comfortability. Like I knew that I had longevity in my career. Like I knew I had longevity doing legal work, administrative work, whatever. So I felt quite comfortable asking to get paid. The last time that I did it was when I was still working for the state here in Georgia, and I worked in an agency that out of all the agencies were one of the lowest paid agencies, meaning the people who worked there were not paid up to par. But Georgia happens to be an open record state, so you can access the salary of any state employment online, employee online. So
Yeah.
I got busy. I started out as a temp in the legal department, doing like file work, and then it escalated to me doing the background criminal checks and things like that. And then that escalated into when the legal assistant position opened up, I wanted to take it. um, and so I applied for it and I got the job. But then when they made the offer, the woman who was my supervisor at the time, she rejected it immediately. She didn't even bring it to me, and she was just like, it was an insult.
Yeah.
She's like, they were trying to give you like 24,000 a year, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I haven't made 24,000 since I was a teenager. Okay, so I literally, she said, come up with a fee, a salary that you want, and let's bring it to the table. So what I did was I had to recognize that I came from up north. So rate of pay is different up north than it is down here, unfortunately. However, I used the fact that I had certain technological advancement, like the state, it's the state. So they're behind on certain things that I was ahead of, and that's a skill and that's an asset. Then I got online and I took the average salary of somebody in my position in corporate America, like private sector, and then I went through all of the different state agencies and found administrators in my role or in an equivalent level and pulled their salaries and did an average out. And from that average, I chose the higher paid salaries um, and gave them this price. So she goes and she brings it to the HR lady, who, by the way, she had come from the Department of Transportation. So she was paid and she was also white. And so she rejects it as if I'm digging my hands in her purse. And what I did not expect that it was going to turn into an all-out war, to the point where it put a hiring freeze on my department because they were supposed to be hiring all of the temps at the time. And because of me saying, no, I don't want this amount, I want this amount, it turned into a war for a month. It paused hiring for a month. And there was this back and forth until the chief.
Did your coworkers know that you were causing all this
drama?
drama?
Yes. So nothing stays secret at the state. So all of a sudden, like, there are people who whisperings in the, like, we know what you're doing. Some people were really like, fight the power. And other people were like, you're a F up. Like, it was two different sides. However, one of the things that I realized in my research is that there had been people at the state who had been there for 10 years, 8 years, 13 years, and were still making $22,000, $24,000, $26,000 after a decade at the state. And I thought it was absurd. But because of this, they thought that I should not be asking for more. And I'm like,
I was just about to say, I bet you those were the people who were not pro you.
no, and they were not proactive.
They're probably the ones, yep.
Yep. So when this war went on for a month, so the chief legal officer, who was like the head of the entire legal department, he stepped in and he like usurped the woman in the HR department. And he just like went to the head of HR, and was just like, can we give her this? He was like, yeah, go ahead, give it to her. It was done. It was done. Yeah. And that was it. What that resulted in was, once they gave me my pay, they had to up the salary of everybody in my office. So now, like in my department, so now the minimum was no longer what they had been trying to pay people, and they had to bring it to what I requested. Nice. Then following that, people who had not been given raises or whatever got their pay grade bumped up. So in effect, like, there was a change, but it also shifted the culture for me, because that woman did not speak to me for like a year. She would see me on the elevator. She would not talk. I would say, hey, good morning. And she would just ignore me.
And I mean, it's not even like you're asking.
It's not your money. Well, here's what we learned. So just paying attention to the numbers, only the directors and like heads of departments were continuously getting a raise every year. Mm-hmm. And what we learned is what happens is, if you can keep the salaries down at the state agencies, it's a bonus for the commissioners and the directors and whatever.
Yeah.
So that is why. So she came from the Department of Transportation making like $90K. And, you know, she was making, I think, almost $100K, like in a very short amount of time. I knew what my supervisor made and all that stuff, like they were making bank. But one of the other things that I noticed, I got busy, I got nosy, and I wanted to see what Black people were making at the state. And consistently across the board, I was seeing Black women who were in spaces of director roles making less than their white counterparts in similar roles, like similar levels. And it was enough for me to know, like, somebody told me flat out their own mouth, she had been there for a while. She was like, you're just lucky that they even offered you a job. Like, a lot of people temp here forever and don't get hired. And I'm like, no, I'm not lucky. I'm educated. I know what I'm doing. Right. I'm experienced. But on top of that, people were really, their spirit was broken. And they were like, girl, I've been fighting this fight. They didn't even think that they were worth the fight of asking for a raise, because they had been rejected so many times. And I'm just not that person. Like, I got an interview during the same time at the Department of Law, which is right across the street from my job. And I told my supervisor, like, I will go to the Department of Law and make this amount of money. Like, and so she used that as like a tool to tell our boss, like, we can lose her, like she can go across the street and make more money.
Right.
And that's kind of like what set everything off for my boss, like the big boss, to just kind of be like, yeah, we'll go for it. But
so I have a question. So it sounds like, you know, in corporate, you were fine just asking for what you need.
Yeah.
Not so much. I'm sure that's shocking. But was that easy for you to transition into when you were in the blogging world with branding stuff, or did you suddenly feel the fear the rest of us fear?
It wasn't fears necessarily, it was doubt. So I was new, and brand collaboration was like new. I didn't even know brand collaborations really existed, like sponsored posts outside of fashion. Like that was something that I kind of learned along the way. So that opened the door for me to do more work outside of just fashion posts. But it was more or less like after talking to people, right, and hearing other people's stories, it seemed like nobody was getting paid. It was like this very few, group of people who can get paid with these big sponsored brands, and they were always viewed as the, elite bloggers or whatever, which that's a whole nother story. But I'm like, well, I may not have 100K following, but if you're reaching out to me and I'm not pitching to you, but you're reaching out to me for access to my audience, like, why don't you have a budget? Sis, like this free outfit is, it's nice, but it doesn't pay bills, and exposure doesn't pay bills either. Like, and I really just started, like, last year was like the final straw for me after the situation with Full Beauty Brand. And I was just like, why am I even wasting my time? And I made it my business to, I'm not doing any collaborations unless they're paid. None. That is, pay me all 2021. It won't hurt anything if I don't do another fashion collaboration in my life.
Right. Right.
So there's no harm in me saying, like, no, I have rates and you need to respect them. They don't go to a marketing agency, no matter how much of a startup company it is, and tell them, well, exposure will get you
Right.
more business, but we can't pay you. It's absurd. Whether you take influencers or bloggers seriously or not, you're accessing them for marketing. Let's call it what it
And
is.
that is why they also should be taken seriously, especially the ones that put time, effort, and care into it. But they're essentially just marketing. They are marketing tools of today, because most of us don't even watch TV, and when we do, we skip through the commercial. So that type of advertisement, not really effective. But someone's Instagram post, like, let me tell you, I have seen so many people in that tie-dye sweatshirt. I'm ashamed that I just want a tie-dye sweatshirt now. Like, some of us out here are really easily influenced. And so you get enough influencers doing things, and you can really move your product. And I'm sure all of us can give examples of when we bought something because someone else showed that they had it. Are you saying no, like you've never done that? Because I believe there's a quarter somewhere in your house.
Yes, no, what I was getting ready to say is my fashion choices are really not heavily influenced by other influencers.
Yeah.
Other things, random things, like, yes, the recorder that I have was because of you. But also my affinity for wanting to relive my fourth grade, year of being the master at the recorder. And I say, only reason I say fashion wise, I'm not heavily influenced is because I kind of march to the beat of my own drum. In terms of fashion, I'm also in a larger size, and unfortunately, the majority of these influencers are smaller, fat bodies, so I can't even fit the clothes anyway.
Right.
And because fast fashion happens to be like really the vibe right now, most fast fashion brands don't go up beyond a 3X. So
what's fast fashion? Fast fashion? What genre is that?
Fashion Nova and Lovely Wholesale and Shein, all cheaply made clothes out of China that they
I thought we were speaking like genres. I'm like loungewear, blah blah blah. I'm like fast fashion.
No, fast fashion is its own genre.
Got it.
It's basically overcharging for things that are very cheaply made and will not last. Like Reb Dolls, they were really good at being a bougie fast fashion. Then they started upping their prices, and I'm like, sis, I know how much you paid for this. I have access to vendors. No, thank you. Like, I'm not about to drop like $50 on something you spent $5 on. No.
And you mentioned that recently you did an interview with Bold.
Yes,
on their IG page, and you talked about how, because she asked a great question, which is that I always wonder about, plus sizes paying more. And while in theory I'm like, it stinks, I'm also like, well, I get it, more material. But then you mentioned that they get it for cheap anyway, so really it's not even about that.
So if it's not a designer, I think when it comes to designer, that is something totally different, because they are making these things fresh. They do have to use more fabric, and that is costly. But when it's these boutiques, or even these larger brands like Target and Walmart and, whomever else, right? Gap, Old Navy, whatever, they are literally wholesaling. Like they're not.
So when I pay like
And
$2 more for a shirt that someone a normal size pays, I'm basically like paying a fat tax because
you
it's
ever
really only
look at what
$50.
it says on the label? Like most of this stuff is made in China.
Yeah,
So like why are you being charged more for something that you didn't even make? Like, and it's not to say that they maybe it doesn't cost them a little more to buy it, but you're buying thousands,
right.
which means that price comes down on an individual item with how, the more you expand the number of items that you buy. So you're not really losing anything by charging fat people the same amount. It's an illusion that they use to be like, yeah, cost. I mean, unless, like I said, these are companies that are manufacturing their own clothes on their own, which most of them are not. They're wholesaling, and that they're wholesaling because you can see one outfit over on this brand site and it'll be on 3 other brand sites, and the only difference is the tag that is inside of the clothing.
Yeah. So so let's say we're in the blogging sphere, the whatever sphere, because there's a lot on a side note, a lot of people call themselves bloggers and don't have blogs, and I don't even understand it. Like, I don't even, like, if someone refers to me as a blogger, I'm like, no, I don't even have a blog. I write, and not because I think like, oh, I'm a writer is better than I'm a blogger, but just I don't have a blog, so I'm not a blogger. Like, that's
I
that.
wish more people would think like you, because you would think that that is like the worst thing I could possibly say when people are like, I'm a blogger, and I'm like, oh, where's your blog? And you're like, oh, I don't have one, and I'm like, then you're not a blogger.
Right. I just don't understand, like, why are you giving yourself that? Like, is it because they don't want to say they're an influencer? Like, is it that
You
they're
don't
like
have to say you're an
person?
influencer. Like now you can they actually have like the option on Instagram to choose digital creator,
Yeah,
content
just
creator.
content creator. I just don't understand why people
And
are
I
calling
use that title only
bloggers.
because I do more than blogging, but
Right.
like I definitely have no problem saying I'm a blogger because I actually own a blog. I take the time to write articles from my blog. Yeah, like I blog. So when
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, I'm a micro blogger," what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, "Oh, I write long captions on my Instagram posts." Like,
Okay. Yeah. I just call yourself a content creator. That's totally fine. There's
like
nothing
what?
wrong
I
with
don't know why. And I think some people feel like if they use blogger, it's more respected than influencer. And I'm like,
which is funny. Because each of them has a layer, and then there's also the people that are dismissive of all of it. And
I was gonna say, like,
you don't
if
even
I
understand.
tell some people like that I blog full time, they're like, "What is a blog? What do you
Yeah, they
do?"
don't get it. They don't understand
Like
that.
my own mom is this way. My mom is like, I don't like when I tell her like, oh, so I'm being interviewed for a live or I'm going to go do a speaking engagement. She's just like, why? Like
Right.
why? Like why are these people trying to interview? Like she does not understand the scope or the capacity of anything that I do. She just thinks it's cute. Like when I write certain blog articles that I think she'll appreciate, I will send it to her, and she's just like, "This is great writing."
Yeah.
She's not understanding like, oh, there are thousands of people who like will come and read my work.
Yeah.
She doesn't get it. And I think a lot of people feel like that.
A lot of people, they're just like, oh, okay. I luckily am blessed with a mom who's like, my mom's so
I
funny.
love your
So
mom.
cute.
She is hilarious to me.
She is my number one supporter in life. I just love it because anytime, like, if I make a video and it's not getting like traction, I can send it to my mom and she's like, that's the best thing I've ever seen in my life. Or like, I love when I have an idea, she's instantly like, okay, do we write Oprah? Do we write Tyler Perry? Like, who do we contact to make this happen?
Mom.
I'm just like, I just love that you believe that whatever I produce is at that level.
That is my dad.
I
Like,
love it.
he may not necessarily understand like content creation or anything like that, but if I tell my dad like, oh, I'm doing a brand partnership with such and such, he's like, oh yeah, you charging? Like he'll give me some astronomical price that like I really shouldn't be charging, and he's just like, yeah, like do it.
He's like, you're worth it. That's right. Yeah.
Okay, Dad, I got you. Like I'll try. Like no, Fila's not giving me a direct brand deal. That was the Dad. Like I'm gonna need you to fight down. Right. But I love it. Like he thinks it's great. He's just like whatever. I don't understand it, but if you love it, I like it, kid. And
yeah, and I mean, that's the best is having that support. But there really are the social media. There's just a lot of people who don't understand it. And I'll be honest, there are some people who I'm like, yeah, we can have a conversation about it. And there are some people where I just don't want to waste my breath. I think that's definitely something that's happened later in life where I'm okay with you not understanding, actually. Like if you don't want to, like, I think maybe when I was younger, I really felt like I needed to be understood all the time by people. And it was really a
Yeah.
frustration of mine when I felt misunderstood. But with age comes wisdom, and also not giving enough. And so I don't really care anymore. Like there are certain people where I'm just like, you can think I do whatever. I really don't, because it doesn't impact my life. And the time it would take to explain it to you is more time than it's really worth. And I know at the end of it, you're still not really going to understand. So let's just save each other a breath. Things are going great. Let's talk about something else, you
Yeah,
know?
like I don't even engage people who are like, but what do you do?
Yeah.
After I've already told you what I do. Yeah, but what do you do?
Well, you can tell some people are like genuinely interested. They don't understand. They want to know. And some people are just like, "Meh." And it's so weird to me too, like this age thing. And I don't know, maybe I'm sure every generation has this, but I just feel like if you look at life in general of the world, new careers come up all the times as things progress and change. So like,
Yeah,
yeah, a few
companies
years
now
ago,
have social media strategists.
yeah, and it's a huge and well-paying job because it's that important. So I really don't understand people who are dismissive of it. Like, obviously it's important. Maybe, 20, 30 years ago it wasn't, but now it is. Just that's just how it is. Before TV came around, TV stars weren't a big deal, and now they are. It's an
Yeah, and
important thing.
that's the thing. I'm like, do y'all remember when typewriters came out? And you guys just thought you were the greatest secretaries ever because typewriters existed, and then word processor came, and then like PCs came, and all of that. So it's like
Hmm. I
things
remember email.
evolve.
Oh, it's so amazing. Things came through so fast.
Messaging.
Oh, instant
Oh, let's
messaging.
just not talk about it. Let's not talk about
We
those
can't
things
talk about
anymore.
instant messaging.
I just want to state shout out to my mom who brought home the first word processor. She worked at Yale University. She brought this big metal box home, and it had like aside for like the big floppy disk, not like the mini one, but the big ones that were literally floppy. And then a screen that was like this big, and the letters were green, and the background was black. And there was this game where it was like Battlestar or whatever. It wasn't real. It was like everything was made out of letters and numbers, and you had to like use a space bar to shoot them out of the sky.
Oh
It was
yeah, yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. I love that. Was that the one where they fell and you had to like shoot them?
Yes, and I
Yeah.
used to think I was just doing the most,
Mhm.
on this word processor. This was pre-internet being accessible to people in their homes. Like this
Yeah,
was
yeah.
before, like even when you could start getting the CDs or whatever. Like, and I just thought it was the greatest thing. Like, who knew
Oh my
that?
goodness. You just gave me a flashback. I remember you had to get AOL on a CD.
Yes,
Oh my
Net
gosh, I
Zero.
forgot about that.
Like
Oh,
I used to work in the grocery space so I
old.
could Stop and Shop, and at our customer service desk, they would have the free ones, like get an hour of free time
Yes.
or 90 minutes, and like you can.
Wow. Well,
We're
we
old.
aged ourselves this episode.
Like even just thinking about the transition of cell phones from. I remember my first cell phone. It was a Sprint phone, flip phone. My sister had given me. Had
Do you
absolutely
remember
no purpose.
texting with the numbers? And I
Yes,
remember when I got so fast, I felt so proud of myself.
yes, my
But
Nokia,
for you
my
youngins.
antennaless Nokia, where you could change the cover to
And then
be
T-Mobile came out with the ones with a full keyboard, and we were like, "Oh, a keyboard? What?"
what
For you
a
youngins who
QWERTY
may not
keyboard at
know,
that.
you
And
used to
then
have
it
to
was
type letters. Like you used to
yes,
type numbers for each letter to type a message. Back in
yeah.
the day.
And then we got like candy bar phones, and then it was like the BlackBerry, and then it was the Razor flip phone. Like we've watched phones evolve so much to the point where we have Galaxies and Apples now. Like
Am
things
I
change. I
frozen
think
on
that's the
your end?
general
Because you're
point we're
frozen
making,
on
folks.
my
Things
end.
change. And if you can adapt to understand cell phones, you can adapt to understand the change in job titles, such as, you know, blogger,
Content creator,
content creator,
blogger,
influencer.
it's another word for writer. I mean, I
Right.
think that's one of the things that I absolutely love about the time that we live. You can literally create a career for yourself out of anything, doing anything. Um, we talked a little bit, or I know we were going to have a little bit of a conversation about like the whole being fearless thing and what does that mean, and how those of us who are fearless aren't really fearless. We just push through the fear to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. But one of those things is that we now live in a time where you can reinvent yourself. I 4 years ago now really had a complete 180 of my life and what I wanted to do. Where I was feeling really like listless in my job, and it wasn't anything that I really cared about. I hate banking, even though I've been in the industry for 13 years. I don't care about it at
Kidding.
all.
He wants a job.
Yeah,
He doesn't mean it. So
I don't mean it. I love it. Um, but
Link
I
twice.
just wasn't getting fulfillment out of it. And I knew like what my talents were. And I had always been, oh, when I get slimmer, I'll do this. When I lose weight, I'll do that. And luckily around the time I was like, man, what is my purpose in life? Was also around the time I heard Cece's quote, don't wait on your weight, live the life you want. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. Even in my size, am an excellent writer. I'm great at
Exactly. Like, and
communicating.
on what planet does your
Good
size
at communication.
affect your writing? Like,
I mean, it
are we
doesn't, but I
too
think
fat
it
to be
affects
great of mind? Like, what? Okay.
it doesn't, but it does affect like you wanting to put yourself out there. Not so
For
much even the
sure.
writing, but like the other stuff I want to do. Like, I do a lot of stuff like with the
SM, like,
camera and the moderating and the
yeah.
speaking. And I just, so I had those hesitations, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to put myself out there because I'm good at that. And I've worked hard since then. And I feel like if I toot my own horn for a minute, I have made leaps and bounds in that amount of time. Part of that has helped that I moved to Delaware, which is a small state. So it's easier to make a little bit more of an impact, but just a proud moment I recently have, I'll share
Well,
with
let's
you
have
guys.
another proud moment. Your brows look so good tonight. Like,
Thank you, ma'am.
I've been staring at them like something is different. I don't know what you did, but come on, sis.
Thank
Yeah.
you. It's been a long brow journey. Thank you. I used a different brow thing. I had one of those ones with like the 3 prongs. It has like the gel stuff in it, but it's
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, loved it. But so other proud moment, I was speaking with someone local in Delaware who's just a great person. She's a therapist. She does a lot in the community. She was actually recently named one of Delaware's most influential people. And she had asked to have a Zoom call with me. So we're talking. She's like, I've really been looking forward to seeing you, like personally meeting you. I've seen you in events and we've crossed paths. She's like, you've made such an impact, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, me? I was like, well, I've been here, about 3 years. She's like, 3 years? You've only lived in Delaware 3 years? I'm like, yep. She's like, whoa. So it felt really good to know that I had made that impact and was making a difference. So that's really what I set out to do when I was like, hey, I'm going to change my whole world around. There is a quote that I live by, which is, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. So when I was going through that listless period, I was sort of like, all right, well, I'm going to give myself, because everyone says it takes at least like 5 years for your blogging or your whatever to take off, at least. So I was like, well, I was like, great, 5 years, I'll be around 35 this October. I'm going to give myself the time to put in the time to see if I can make what I want to happen. Because a lot of people think they'll be good at things and they are not, or think they want things but don't want to put in the work. So I was like, if I reach that age, and even if I haven't like made it where I want to, if I'm actively on that journey, I'll keep going. But if I reach that age and I'm still dreaming, thinking, wishing, hoping, praying, but I'm not putting in the work, then at that point, I'm going to stop all of that and focus on the blessing of the life I have now, because I am truly blessed. I have a great career, great family, all the benefits, all the great things. So I was like, if I'm not doing what I need to have a different life, then I'm just going to, at that point, be more appreciative of my current life. Luckily, I'm on the path to peace out. But I'm still appreciative of my current life though, because not everyone is that blessed. But I was saying all of that to say that you just have to put yourself out there more to get what you want. And it's not always easy. But luckily you can, in the social media era that we create now, it's easier to find a community. It's not like back in the day where you were in your small town and you only saw the people you saw and you can't really create a new life for yourself. So you just have to keep trucking along. Now you can reach out on
Like I
social
did. You
media.
run away. You run
Yeah.
away. Like, I skated because I just knew New Haven was not the place where I was going to develop any kind of anything there. But that fearlessness, like, apply it to asking for that salary. The worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no. It's interesting that you mentioned where they say at least a minimum of 5 years before you start to see anything. I've heard a minimum sometimes of 10, right? So I know that I approached my 5 year benchmark last year with running apyoungblog.com. And I, at the top of this year, like things, new like opportunities presented themselves. And I don't know if it's because I've put in 5 years worth of work now building APY brand, AP Young Blog, but I will tell you what, it feels hella good when I talk to people and they're familiar with my brand. Like they know who APY is, they know what I represent. That means I've done a good job of branding myself. I've done a good job. Like they know me as the thyroid lady or the chronic illness woman or the mental health advocate, like all the things that I've spent all this time like building, they know me as that. And that feels good. And I'm in a space where I am open, more than welcoming, more than open to being compensated when I am asked to do work.
That's what I was going to ask you, Ashley. So now that you're in that space where you're comfortable, and I think that part of that whole 5 year thing is getting more comfortable and getting your name out there. So now your name's out there, you're doing good. How do you transition that into getting compensated, especially since, and something that connects both of us is that, like, yes, fashion and all that stuff is fun, but we care a lot about different things that we advocate for, and serious matters. And there's also almost a part of me that feels guilty. Like, I don't, like, I want to talk about mental health things and I want to help and share. I feel almost bad to be like, pay me for doing this work in this field,
No,
even though I know people.
I do it for free on my blog. Like
Yeah.
I advocate all day long on my blog. I give away free info 24/7 on Instagram. But if you're asking me to come and do a job,
Pay
I
me.
want to be paid. I may adjust my price for like a nonprofit organization versus a speaking engagement for something nonprofit, like meant for profit.
Yeah,
But either way, there's a rate sheet.
true.
It can be negotiable, but I do have a minimum that has to be met. And I do have a hard stop number, like where if you try to pay me lower than that, I'm just not going to take it. And it really happened probably within the last 6 months of 2020 that I really was like, I went in, I readjusted my rate sheet. If 2020 taught me anything, is I learned with the pull up, shut up um, movement and all these brands and their faux transparency, is that women of color are the lowest paid influencers, bloggers, fashion folk, whatever in these spaces.
Hmm.
They never want to pay for our labor. I'm not sure why that is. And as I watch consistently as mediocre non women of color get all of the deals, all of the collaborations, doing nothing,
Or just recreating what we do, like literally just
regurgitating what we
recreating
do
it.
and regurgitating it poorly. Not, and some of it's just like they're not even putting in the effort, like where you can just haphazardly throw together this look and do a quick story and the brand will repost it. Yet you have us out here giving y'all straight swag, straight style, straight, putting our stank on it. You know what I mean? And y'all are like, oh, pat on your head. Did
Yeah,
you use your code? Okay. Like no repost, no exposure, no nothing. And so it's like, nah. So the only way I'm gonna feel better about that is if you're paying me. Because if you
right,
pay me, I don't have to care.
right.
Like if you pay me, I don't have to put a thought. But when you want 3 carousel posts and 5 stories and 1 permanent post on your page and a blurb on Twitter, and you got a lot of requirements for somebody who does not offer a paycheck.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like what I'm hearing from you is the most important thing, which is something I would try to remind yourself as well, is like your time is valuable. Your time is worth, and especially when you're moving into being an entrepreneur, um, that is still your time. So for me, even like if I think about clocking in at work, like how much is my time, like at your job, they're telling you how much your time is worth, how valuable you are per hour. So when you're doing jobs and things for other people as a blogger, as a writer, you should say, blogger, writer, influencer, whatever, how much is your time worth compared to how long that is taking? And not even necessarily how long, because the better you get at stuff, you might be faster at it. That doesn't mean your time isn't worth as much
Like
time.
the other day, I did something actually for a medical group or whatever, and they paid me $50 an hour to sit there and contribute my time and my experience. They're a corporation or organization. Obviously, they have money. I looked into them. But they didn't even hesitate. Like as they're sending me my contract and detailing the things that they need, they're like, and this is $50 an hour for your time. And the fact that they're willing to pay me $50 an hour just for my
Did they
time.
offer it or did they ask you to speak and then you're like, yes, but you have to pay me?
No, like that was included in their pitch. When she reached out
Okay.
to me, she's like, this is a paid opportunity. I believe you need to be compensated. She found me on my blog. Like she
Have
reached
you ever had one where they've asked you to speak and you're like, yes, but I need to be paid? And then have you had one where they said yes and one where they said no?
no, I've never been told when I've asked about pay, no. Um, in fact, it was really weird. There was this, what was the name of them? They were looking for speakers, and when I reached out about pay, they wanted me to pay them.
Oh, I remember them. I got their email.
Yeah, and I was
Remember?
like,
I think because I messaged you, I was like, is this for real?
yeah,
Like,
like
they
I
just asked for
screenshot it and put it in my
$300?
stories. Like, there's no filter here. Like, y'all need to see this trash that is happening here. I have been told. I think I've been told no once. Like, there's no compensation, and I just didn't do the job.
Yeah. But for
Um,
the most part, if they don't come to you with compensation, you can say, yes,
right
compensate
now,
me. What's
right
up?
now, my response has been, especially since last year, when these brands reach out and they're like, we would like for you to do ABC, I always respond with, I'm more than interested in pursuing a paid collaboration.
Mm,
I am attaching my rate sheets for your review. If this is something that is doable, please feel free to move forward. If it's not, I understand, and good luck with your, whatever you're doing. And I have literally, at this point, I would say it's probably been up to 10 now between September of last year and to current, 10 collaborations that I have turned down
mm.
because they're not trying to pay. And one woman, I was so floored that her introduction was during this time of COVID.
Mm.
We don't have the budget, but this is a gifted opportunity. And I was just like, what? Like, what?
Well, you know
That's
what?
your pitch is we don't have a budget
We don't have
because
a
of
budget, but this
COVID?
is a gift.
Yeah,
Well,
like,
I do think
no, son.
I
Mm-mm.
do think that part of it is when you're starting out. So I was saying earlier, like you can make a career for yourself out of anything, but if it's not something you have a ton of experience, that career is probably going to be start built on free work. That's how it was for me. Like so many of the things I was doing, the writing, speaking, blah blah blah, was because I was so new that I just wanted people to take a chance on me. So of course I'm willing to do it for free. But now that we are years down the line and I have more experience, now I'm like, okay, I think my time is worth the money and the effort that I'm putting in. I think that some people have a problem doing that transition to being like, oh, well, I did
'Cause
do it for free, but
Well, I wouldn't have a problem with that, honestly, because all it's going to do is if you weren't paying me before, you're just not going to be paying me now. And now I'm just not going to be having to put in work.
right.
Um, I look at it like this: if the only thing I stand to lose is not getting paid, and I've already not been getting paid, it's not a loss.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think some of us just are. I keep saying some of us. I'm talking about me. I'm talking about me. We,
it's me. I'm
we
some of us. Like,
we are just a little bit like hesitant as far as like how that will make us look. And I want to speak in past tense because I've gotten better about this, but I was like, oh, I don't want to seem like agree. But at the end of the day, and I think something that definitely is going to help is my site will be, it's getting redone. I'm also talking with a tax person. I'm going to be an LLC. And I think thinking of myself as a business helps with that mentality because as a business, I wouldn't want to work for free. My services wouldn't be for free. And it's, I think, easier for people to think when they're physically creating something like, here, I made this and you're purchasing it versus like, this is my time for my intellectual property. I'm selling you my intellectual property when I'm writing or I'm speaking or whatever, and I deserve to be paid for that. The transition is hard sometimes, but it's definitely worth it.
it's worth it. And
Especially
I
if you're
think it can
overloaded
happen.
with time, without time.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I I think we have to just get out of this idea of what it will it make it look like. Because I'm pretty certain that Becky She has no problem saying I want to be paid, and it
Or
doesn't look like
Chad.
anything. And
Chad definitely doesn't have a problem with it.
um, so I look at it like that, like what would Becky do?
Mm,
Becky's gonna get her coins, right? And that's how I feel. And I'm just at the point where I'm so comfortable with that. Like I really don't care how it makes me look.
yeah.
Because if the shoe were on the other foot and I was asking to access your business for free, like there are some brands who don't even want to send you free product. They literally want you to pay with a discounted code. Like, nah.
Mm,
So the fact that y'all don't even want to give out free product, why would you think that I want
I should.
to,
Yeah.
work for free? I
Mhm.
don't care anymore. Because then
It
this
definitely,
this helps me weed out what's for me and what's not for me. If it's for me, they will be on board and it will happen. If they're not, it just won't.
yeah, and I was gonna say, actually, I definitely think that that helps with that. I am so busy all the time and so overloaded, which is good. It tells me that I'm in the right direction, that I have found the right niche, that people like what I'm putting out, but it also means that I barely have time. But being on that or in that arena, it actually makes it easier to now say, like, listen, unless someone can pay me, I literally can't and will not add more to my plate. So that for me, it's unfortunate that it took that, but that has made that conversation a lot easier for me to just be like, no, 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 I can't.
That's
I
on
literally
period.
cannot.
That's on per.
Yeah.
So we're not going to hold you guys up with our I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar. Like, I think we got the point, and I hope that if you're watching this back, you are motivated and inspired to know how to ask for your worth. Asking for your worth does not mean you're money hungry. Asking for your worth means you are asking for adequate compensation for the job you are being asked to do. Always keep
Amen.
that in mind.
Yep.
And that
And
and
we
that
started with a song. So I'm also going to end with a song on my end, which
baby,
is You Better
it's
Have My Money.
not for
What
me. Oh, I thought we were going to Bob. Okay, never mind. Never mind.
I'm sticking with the theme, like pay me what you owe me. You know, bitch better
Better
have my
have my
money.
money.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what you tell them. Tell them to pay you what they owe you.
Exactly, because I'm a Rihanna stan anyway. Thank you guys so much for joining
Thanks,
us for next
guys.
episode of More Than My Size. We look forward to seeing you guys for next week's episode. And of course, always make sure you drop down, leave a comment, give your feedback. If you are watching this on live chat, let's discuss in the comments. And of course, follow More Than Our Size _ the show on Instagram for this week's Spill It question. Until next time, you guys.
Bye.